All right, guys, let's jump into another one of my favorite setups, the peg play, and this is very high conviction for me. It hits at over 70% with a 3R, absolute game changer, a big part of why I'm up over 170% in 2025 and on track to triple my account. And I'm going to show you how to spot it, how to chart it, and how to execute. Let's go ahead and jump in. So we're looking for a significant gap up, and I typically like to look for around or sometimes at least 10% gap up off of an earnings report. And this can vary. If it's a mega cap, a 10% gap up is not always realistic, but that's a general number that I like to look for, a significant gap up on the chart. And we also need volume confirmation, okay? I like to see at least 200% of the average volume on the gap candle. All right, so a big volume spike on a gap candle, and we need the catalyst, right? Of course, this is a power earnings gap. This is a peg play. This is based on an earnings report where there was maybe a raised guidance or an earnings beat, a new product, something like that. There's a reaction coming off of the catalyst of the earnings report. And as always, guys, we keep our charts clean. All right, I use 2 indicators, and that is all you need to identify the right side of the trade for the peg play, and it is an anchored VWAP and a fixed range volume profile with a point of control. We'll jump in, I'll show you on the charts exactly what this looks like and how to set up your chart, but those are the 2 indicators that I use, and both of them do a very good job of showing who is in control, buyers or sellers. And if we're trading to the upside, obviously we want our price above both of these levels, and if we're playing a gap down, then we would want price below. But we're in a strong bull market, so we're gonna focus on gap ups for our peg play in this video, but just know, just like all of the other setups that I've showed you so far, all of this can be done in a bear market as well. If we are in a trending market, in a stable trending market, then all of these setups can be done both ways. Just invert your charts if you don't like looking at things to the downside. Okay, it's the same thing. So we've got a live chart of the daily on CBRE here, and we're looking for a gap up on major volume. All right, this is over 200% of the average volume. So we got a big volume candle and a big gap. So we just apply our 2 indicators, the anchored VWAP, and I like to apply it to the gap candle, okay? And you can see it will then apply it automatically to any day following. And then the other is a fixed range volume profile. And same thing, we start that on the gap candle, and then each day we'll move it over, okay? So as we're tracking and watching our peg watch list, each day we need to go in and move this over. And you see this black dotted line here? This is the point of control, all right? So it's the highest volume within our fixed range, and that is a point of control. It's a very major level. And again, if our price is above it, then buyers are in control. Below, sellers are in control. Same thing with the anchored VWAP. If the price is above it, then it suggests that buyers are in control, and below, sellers are in control. Very basic stuff, guys, and as you know by now, I like to keep things basic. We don't need to overdo it with indicators. This is enough to read price action. So a little bit of entry philosophy. I don't like to chase a day one candle on a power earnings gap. I like to allow things to play out, let the stock breathe a little bit, see some positioning, okay, see the flow, see the levels that are being defended, all right, and let some sort of structure begin to play out. I like my anchored VWAP to be sloping up. And again, I want it to be above the point of control and above that upsloping anchored VWAP. All right, that is your entry. And again, we'll go through some trades that I've taken and some that are setting up now. And I'll show you this again and again and again. It's very clean, very easy to see and identify, which makes it easy to execute. All right, it's if, this, and that. As you guys know, I love my mechanical entries. So real quick before we jump into some charts, I just want to say again, this is just like all of my other plays. I like to align with the institutions, okay? So we get a big gap up, and a lot of times these institutions are misplaced and they need to rebuild or build a position into this stock that was maybe misjudged or miscalculated before the earnings report. The peg play, the way I trade it, hits at over 70% with a 3R. This is an absolute game changer. So I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. Let's jump into some charts and look at this thing, and then I'll show you what is setting up now currently, and just to really drive home the fact of what we're looking for and begin to understand these levels and how we use these 2 indicators to identify our entries. So this is app, and we got a gap up on their previous earnings report where we had big volume come in, and we applied our anchored VWAP, and then we applied our point of control, and you can see how price ranged just a bit off of each, and then it got up over our point of control supported by the anchor VWAP. There's your entry, 3 to 1 off of that. Your entry candle is here as we bust over point of control, 3 to 1, stop just below, winner. And then here is app a couple months later, same thing, big volume gap up, and we put in our anchored VWAP. We start tracking our point of control, moving this over daily, and you can see when the price remounted it, we went right below with our stop, just below the anchored VWAP, 3-to-1, got it just a couple days later, guys. This is a very, very strong pattern. We'll go over to Bros here, same deal. Big volume on a power earnings gap. We've got our anchored VWAP, our point of control. We let the price action breathe, remount both of these. That's our trigger, 3-to-1, 2 days later. Once again, so strong. Such a good setup, guys. Super powerful here. We've got Rocket Lab here. Big gap up on earnings, ton of volume. All right, we've got our anchored VWAP. Begins to slope up as the price gets back above our point of control. That's our entry, that's our trigger, 3-to-1 just a few days later. And here's AXON, and I've got this couple of them on one chart. You can see back here we had our gap up, point of control, anchored VWAP, price gets above both. That's our trigger to get in, 3-to-1. Week and a half later, and then the next report does the exact same thing again. So guys, you can see structurally, all right, what we're looking for. It's very cut and dry. It's if this then that. It is mechanical, okay, and it allows us to set clear defined levels and enter a trade with a high probability of working in our favor. So here's some that we are looking at and tracking now. I've got CBRE. So here is a peg list. I suggest creating these. It's very easy to scan for, but typically you'll notice things gapping up as they come off of earnings. Everyone's talking about it. Again, you can just scan for these things, but I've got a list here that you can start to check out. All of these, not all, but most of these have gapped up before. So go ahead and look back in the past and see how these things have worked out and begin to do your own back testing. But all we do is we get our gap up, we put in our anchored VWAP on the gap candle, all right? And we're starting to track that. And then we put in our fixed range volume profile starting on the gap day, and we move this over every day. So this one, you can see before it gapped up on us, you could see this forming, right? And then it gapped up on us, but now we're above the point of control, we're above the anchored VWAP. We know that buyers are in control and we can begin looking for an entry. Maybe you didn't want to buy the gap day, that's okay. You could have bought the next one when it gapped down just a bit, but it held its level and it is pushing again, okay? So I'll click through this list and show you quite a few of them that really are setting up the same. You'll have to adjust your fixed range volume profile depending on what chart you're on. I like to view this on 8 of them. It's just the way I like to look at things, but I keep about 8 of them ready to view at any time, and I've got it on a side screen. I'm always watching the peg plays during earnings season. But guys, it's really super simple. I don't need to drive this home too hard, but this one failed. You can see though, we've got our gap up, we've got big volume, we start tracking, and we were looking for it to get back above an upsloping anchored VWAP. It did not, it's rolling over. That's okay. We've got more to look at. So CBRE we just looked at. We'll go over to Meta. Meta has recently triggered. All right, and we want to make sure we've got our anchored VWAP in there. But here was the trigger candle here on Meta. If you missed it, it pulled back. You can see how significant these levels become, and that was a second chance at an entry, and this could be off to the races. Okay, obviously it depends on some things. You need a stable macro environment. Of course, as with any of these things, you need to be adaptable to what the market is presenting you. But currently we are in a trending market. So this is one here that I didn't enter this. I just had a baby and I've been a little busy. I really wanted to enter this one here as we were tracking off of the peg play. It was this day here that I was trying. You can see we got above the point of control, upslope anchored VWAP, and I wanted to buy this day. I did not. The next day just ripped, and again, I'm just a little more busy than usual, but you can see, guys, how fast it gave us our targets. Guys, I mean, this entire list is the same. You can click through any of this stuff. It's all super powerful. I think you guys see it. They don't all work. You can see this one is beginning to roll over, but we did not actually ever have a true trigger. A lot of times too, I'll like to see the candle close, right? The confirmation candle close, and I'll buy the next day, guys. This is super powerful. We don't have to rush into these. You can see here on some of the ones we viewed before, look at how far they'll go even beyond a 3R. I like to exit at 3R. You can do your own risk profile and set your levels where you'd like to, but 3R works for me. And guys, we don't need to be in a rush. You can see right here how long these things can trend, because what happens is institutions, they build a position and this thing really just continues to trend for weeks, months, even years at a time after a power earnings gap. It's a super powerful play where you know you've got institutional positioning backing and supporting your entries. But guys, you can just see here how many of these you can be tracking during earnings season, and I really suggest you do so. It's a very strong play with a high win rate as long as you stick to the entry model of an upsloping anchored VWAP, a point of control, the price above both of those things, and now you are aligned with institutional positioning. You've got clear levels of stops, you've got a clear target. It's a hell of a play, and I encourage you to build a peg list of your own. If you've got any questions, obviously hit me in Discord, and I'm there to support you.